Multiple Sclerosis Today. This is a dedicated audio channel inspired by the comprehensive book Living with Multiple Sclerosis, a guide for patients, families, and caregivers. This podcast is designed for anyone touched by multiple sclerosis, patients, families, caregivers, and healthcare professionals, offering clear, compassionate, and actionable guidance for every stage of your MS journey. Now, here's your host of the Multiple Sclerosis Today podcast, Andres Ortiz.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining us at Multiple Sclerosis Today. In this episode, we're exploring the biggest takeaway from the 41st ECTRIMS Congress. And if you've never heard of ECTRIMS before, it is the European Committee for Treatment and Research in MS. So this took place in Barcelona, Spain, in September of 2025. Think of ECTRIMS as the world's main stage for multiple sclerosis, where neurologists and scientists and therapists share the information on diagnosis, treatment, and everyday management of MS. Now, this year's themes were crystal clear. They wanted to have faster and more accurate diagnosis, earlier identification of silent disease progression, and new therapies that would go deeper than ever before. So let's break it all down. One of the most talked about updates was the new 2024 McDonald's diagnostic criteria. You see, these are the international rules that doctors use to diagnose MS, and they just got their biggest refresh in years. The key goal: to diagnose genuine MS earlier, without waiting months or years for another attack or new lesions to appear. Under the old system, proof of dissemination in time, that is, showing that the MS activity happened on different dates, was required for a diagnosis. But now, if your MRI and your spinal fluid findings are strong enough, the diagnosis can be made immediately, right away. As an example, let's say that you have your first episode of optic neuritis, and your MRI already shows typical MS lesions in several regions of the brain and spinal cord, plus positive spinal fluid markers. Now, under the new criteria, your neurologist no longer has to wait for a second event, to happen in order to treat you earlier. Another big change is that the optic nerve has now been officially added as the fifth region doctors look at on an MRI alongside the brain and spinal cord. And this helps catch people whose MS first shows up as eye inflammation, but who otherwise might have been on the fence for a diagnosis. So in practice, this means more people get the right diagnosis sooner. Studies show around 40% increase in early detection compared with the older rules, and importantly, without boosting false positives. Another headline topic in Barcelona was PIRA, which stands for Progression Independent of Release Activity. So it's a lot of words. What that actually means in plain terms is that MS can sometimes keep causing slow, silent worsening. Even when you're not having a relapse or a visible new lesions appear on your MRI, scientists presented new clues on how to identify PIRA early. One exciting study found a particular spinal fluid protein pattern that predicted who might develop this kind of silent progression with about 86% accuracy. I mean, that's huge. Hey, another research found that the blood markers called GFAP, which is glial-fibrillary acidic protein, might help track these slow, smoldering changes in the brain and the spinal cord better than traditional relapse markers. So the takeaway is we're moving beyond the old idea that no relapse, no progression. Doctors are now starting to track the underlying biology of MS to understand who might need close monitoring or a shift in their therapy, even when symptoms are stable. Now, let's talk about therapies. You might have heard whispers about BTK inhibitors. We spoke about it on this show last season. And the BTK inhibitors are medications targeting an enzyme called Bruton's tyrosine kinase, found in both B cells and microglia. They are key players in the MS inflammation. At ECTRIMS, several companies shared impressive updates. The big one was in the fenebrutinib, which showed a strong efficiency over 96 weeks, almost complete suppression of inflammatory activity and promising signs of slowing progression. Importantly, fenebrutinib was designed to cross into the brain and the spinal cord, tackling inflammation not just in the bloodstream, but the inside of the central nervous system, where many other drugs or older drugs can't reach. Another drug, tolobrutinib, also a brain penetrating and might reduce silent progression in both relapsing and progressive MS. Phase 3 trials data and regulatory reviews are ongoing. So this could become one of the next approved therapies for MS. The excitement around the BTK inhibitors comes from the idea that they could bridge the gap between the current generation of immune modeling drugs and the future treatments that fully address the smoldering aspects of disease activity. So if BTK inhibitors are the next step, CAR T cell therapy is the moonshot. This approach, currently used in some cancers, involves engineering a patient's own immune cells to precise target and eliminate the B cells that drive the autoimmune activity, which means we've identified the little troublemaker that's creating all of the ruckus. A first in human MS trial launch at University College London is going on as we speak. Hospitals were presented in Barcelona showing that CAR T just might achieve a deep immune reset, similar to a stem cell transplant, but with more precision. It is still very much in its early days, and there are challenges like infections, risk, cost, and how long the benefits last. But it represents a bold new idea that gives us the ability to reprogram the immune system for long-term remission in MS. Another encouraging trend from ECTRIMS 2025 was the shift towards holistic MS care, recognizing that good outcomes come from more than just medication. Sessions on aging with MS explore when and how to safely step down from high efficiency drugs in older, stable patients while minimizing infections and minimizing the risk. The new subcutaneous Ocrevus formulation, which offers equal effectiveness to IV infusion, but takes just minutes to administer, fits perfectly into this message of personalized care for convenience and safety. Rehabilitation and quality of life were also front and center. RIMS, which is rehabilitation in MS, sessions highlighted structured programs combining physical therapy, psychological support, and mindfulness, especially for patients with progressive disease. These programs improve emotional well-being and cognitive resilience and the participation in daily life. And across the Congress, topics like women's health, cognition, diet, lifestyles were woven into almost every discussion, reflecting the new idea that full spectrum MS management is more than relapse prevention. It's about living well through every stage of life. So what does all this mean for you? Here are the top 3 take-home messages from ECTRIMS 2025. Number 1, diagnosis is faster and smarter. With new MRI spinal fluid tools, many people can get a confirmed diagnosis and start treatment sooner. Silent progression is now measurable. Research on biomarkers like GFAP and the new imaging hints at a future where doctors can detect progression early and not just react late. Therapies are involving BTK inhibitors are expanding what's possible for relapsing and progressive MS. Well, CAR T and remyelination research aim to reshape the long-term outlook. So the bottom line is the field of MS is changing and changing fast. From how we diagnose and how we define, monitor, and manage a disease, it's an exciting time. And each new discovery brings us closer to earlier treatment, greater precision, better quality of life for people living with MS. So thanks for tuning in to Multiple Sclerosis today. And if you found this helpful, share it with another MS warrior. And if you feel that this podcast has been beneficial to you and your loved ones, explaining your MS journey, please hit the subscribe button, so that you can be notified of the updates and notifications on upcoming podcasts. And if you'd like to, or if you'd like me to cover a topic that we haven't covered on multiple sclerosis, just send me a note and drop me a line at multiplesclerosistoday@gmail.com. Again, that's multiplesclerosistoday@gmail.com. Thank you again for spending your time with me to talk about multiple sclerosis. I want you to have the best day ever. And remember, live your best life with multiple sclerosis. And until next time, we'll see you again on Multiple Sclerosis Today. Take care.